This episode is brought to you by Battleborn Batteries, the best name in the RV and marine industry. These lithium batteries are designed and assembled in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. The best solution for your battery anxiety, so go check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
Whether your adventure is on the road, on the water, or off the grid, Battleborn Batteries keep you out there longer.
Hi, everyone. This is Kenny, and I am so excited to announce that SnapPad has become a sponsor for the show. It means so much to us to have their support. I purchased SnapPads for our RV over 2 years ago, and I can honestly say if something happened to them today, I would replace them by tomorrow. They have saved my back and setup time by not needing to crawl underneath our Class A to set up blocks under our jack stands. They truly make setting up our RV a snap.
For me, they reduce vibration in the fifth wheel, took 15 minutes to install, and never come off. SnapPads also add a little something extra to the appearance of the jacks. Go check them out at rvsnappad.com.
You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Hi, everyone. On today's show, we have Ashis Bhattacharya. Ashis is the Vice President of Business Development and Advanced Technology for Winnebago. Ashis explains what drew him to the company and why listening to customers is so important for the growth of Winnebago. Ashis also lets us know how Winnebago is able to help in the fight against coronavirus and how mobile medical vehicles can bring medical service such as a CT scanner to areas that normally would not have access to such testing and equipment. I think what I took away most from this interview is that Winnebago is building much more than just vehicles for fun. They are creating vehicles that can make change in communities for the better. So let's get this episode started.
Hi, Ashis. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Winnebago?
Yeah, thanks so much, Kenny and Sean. It's really great to be on your Beyond the Wheel podcast. You guys do such a great job in terms of informing your listeners about various aspects. I'm just very pleased to be here. So I work with Winnebago. I've been with the company for about 4 years. And I have 3 responsibilities at Winnebago: specialty vehicles, advanced technology, and business development and acquisitions. Winnebago has been really a fascinating company to work for. And my prior experience has actually been in industries which are completely different. And it's been my journey that each time I've changed a company, I've gone into a completely new company, and it's just been very interesting learning about new companies and new industries over the years. But my prior background has been in technology, aerospace, and manufacturing. And as you can imagine, when you come into a new company, one of the ways of learning about a new company very well is to spend a lot of time with customers and people who talk to customers. So one of my real passions is listening to customers, customer research, insights into customers, and particularly in today's online world, there is an opportunity as never before for companies to listen into really honest customer conversations and use that to develop better products. The other areas I'm really passionate about are something called human-centered design, or watching people in the act of doing something with products in order to develop better products, and just bringing in a very fact-based, data-driven approach to management.
I have to admit, sadly, that I'm not a Winnebago owner, but Kenny is, and through the podcast, we've talked about Winnebago, and we've talked to Jamie a couple of times on the podcast. And one thing that we always are impressed with is how much Winnebago pays attention to its customers and what their feedback is on the products and changes that they can make. As a company, your passion of human-centered design, I think, fits really well with the atmosphere at Winnebago of listening to the customers.
That's really one of the things that makes Winnebago unique. And when I was initially talking to Winnebago, a few things about the company really stood out. One is, of course, it's such a well-known brand. It defines the whole category of RVs. It's been really part of popular American culture and movies and songs and stories. And I've just found in my travels that everybody knows Winnebago and everybody has a Winnebago story. And I can tell you a couple of quick stories that are really interesting. I was once crossing the border from Canada coming back into the US. And so at passport control, the gentleman there was asking me about, so what do you do? Who do you work with? And I said, Winnebago. And this was Memorial Day weekend, and there were 20 cars piled up behind us. So he turned a few pages in my passport and then said, so do you think it was a good idea to bring back the Brave, the new model that you launched? I've seen, waitresses in restaurants, they look at my company credit card that has a Winnebago logo, and they'll talk about the trips that they've taken when they were younger. So Winnebago is just this, real part of modern American culture. And in the company, one of the things you see that is really unique and differentiates Winnebago is, first of all, we have a group of really, really innovative and creative people. So Winnebago has always been known for innovation, and quality and service are just built into the culture of the company. And when you look at some of the things that we've been doing, we work with, of course, a network of dealers around the country to deliver on service. But I think whenever you talk to any one of our owners, that's one of the themes that comes across, is that A, these vehicles are built extremely well. There are some unique features. So in our motorhomes, for example, we are one of the only companies that has a steel superstructure which really protects people inside, because it creates a protective shell around the people inside the vehicle. And in terms of customer service, we do a lot on customer service. So when you have a Winnebago vehicle, for example, for many, many years, you've been able to enter your VIN number, and online you'll be able to get the specific details of the appliances and subsystems on your vehicle, which is a very good starting point for customers and owners, as well as service networks, to help repair these vehicles. So Winnebago is really a fascinating and unique company, and I'm very proud to be a part of the team here.
Yeah, Sabrina and I are actually very proud Winnebago owners. We tell everybody about our Winnebago. To go back to that customer service and the build quality, we have over 70,000 miles on our Class A, and we're always surprised at just how much abuse it is able to handle and still be relatively new to us. It looks great. Everything still functions on the inside. I'm glad that you brought up the superstructure. That's something I don't really hear a lot of people talk about. But when Sabrina and I were shopping for an RV, we were surprised to see that not everybody had some type of superstructure, that a lot of the Class A's were just, the captain's chairs were just bolted into wood and not steel or anything like that. Another thing that I don't hear too many people talk about that I appreciate, if something were to break inside our RV, every door, cabinet, piece of furniture, just everything has a little sticker on it with a part number on it. And if you were ever to need something, it's very easy just to take that part number, call Winnebago and say, hey, this isn't working, or this broke, and this is the part number. I mean, every little item has a sticker on it with a part number on it. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's just, so wonderful to hear these stories, because of course, for any company, customers are the only reason we exist. If we didn't have customers like you who trusted us and bought our products and invested, so much money and effort, and, for people like you guys are living full time in the RV. So it's your house, it's the way you move from one place to another. So it's really heartening to hear that. But that's one of the reasons why in Winnebago, we spend so much time with customers, because having driven 70,000 miles, you have seen so many different ways in which the subsystems work. Sometimes when they fall short, how we can improve them. And that's the reason we want to really be obsessed with the customer feedback and the conversations that are going on, and then be able to weave that in to future product offerings, how we deliver customer service. And it's just really great to hear this from customers who have put our vehicles through the paces, because, you guys are demanding people, and you should be. And we really relish the opportunity to meet the challenge and see how we can delight our customers at every stage of their relationship with us.
Ashish, I'm wondering, did you have a lot to do with the voice project with Winnebago?
Yes, that's right. The voice project is something that we've built up through the years. And of course, in all of these things, while there is a front person, there's a whole team behind who helps make these things happen. So, as many of your listeners might know, most RV companies do have customer rallies. And Winnebago has a very well known rally called the Grand National Rally that is held at our headquarters in Forest City, Iowa, every July. It's about a week to 10 days, and we have, let's just say 900 or 1,000 Winnebago owners from all over the country, really the four corners of the country, who drive there and stay there. And we felt when we came into the company that this was such an amazing opportunity to do customer insights research and just spend time with them. So we've done a few things over the years. The Voice project is just, informally, it's meant to be visits on innovation and customer experience. So that's Voice, an acronym. And what we felt was that first, the senior leadership team needs to be part of that community of customers and engaged and visible through the whole rally. So what we do typically is that the CEO and the senior leaders, we tend to live on the grounds in Winnebago RVs through the entire rally. And that gives us a wonderful opportunity, of course, through the day, at meals, at various events, to talk to customers. The second thing is, over the last few years, we have created this Voice program where we've taken people really from across the company in various departments where they may not often get a chance to meet with customers. For us, people like us are really privileged because we get to meet with customers like you, and we go to rallies, we meet with dealers. But there are equally members of the team who may not get an opportunity to meet with customers. And we think it's vital to expose them to customers and have these conversations. So we've recruited people from finance, logistics, the warehouse, from all the manufacturing departments, even, the administrative team in Minneapolis. And we've created this team where we've said, okay, what you need to do is volunteer for the research project. We'll give you training. Each year we will select some specific topics that we want to do research on. And these guys have, very brightly colored fluorescent shirts that they wear so that they're really visible on the rally grounds. And they visit with customers who volunteer for these research visits. And these are 1 hour in-depth interviews in the customer's RV dealing with a topic of interest. And so the topics we've had are, we've looked at storage and how we can build storage better. We've looked at technology. We've looked at traveling with pets. We've looked at multifunction furniture. So we've just looked at a variety of topics each year. And I'm really thrilled, that this year in the July of 2019, we had about 150 Winnebago volunteers who gave of their time and talents for this exercise. And that's something that even if you look at other industries, leading industries in leisure or power sports or things like that, you don't see too many places where, first of all, companies are privileged enough to have so many customers on our doorstep for such a long time. And B, that they do customer insights research in this organized of a way. And customers know now that, we don't just listen to them and take notes and go away, but we have posters on the grounds which say, well, last year, here's what you told us. And this year, here's a feature in an RV that came out as a result of these discussions last year. So I think it just is a few steps on the journey of being a very, very customer-centric, customer-led company, Winnebago.
I think that's one of the keys in getting the customers involved is what you guys are doing on the back end, and that's showing them that you really are using their information to make changes to the products.
Yes, that's right. And I think, nowadays, customers are very vocal. They're very, very, willing to tell us what they do. But it's that part of that process, which is, yes, I listen to you. And while you can't do something with every single suggestion you get, but at least we have a clear process around that, which says, okay, so we will take all of this data, we will prioritize it, We will look at the biggest needs that we can make a change to, and we will include them and we will communicate that. So in a sense, it closes the loop on the conversation, and it gives customers, the willingness to participate in the conversation.
So Ashish, you are mainly involved with the specialty vehicles department of Winnebago. Can you tell us a little bit about that department and what makes that department special, quote unquote?
Yes, as the name indicates, specialty vehicles is a very unique business within Winnebago, and it comes from the heritage of innovation and service that the company has. So in North Iowa, in Forest City, where we have one of our major manufacturing facilities, in winter, as you can imagine, there aren't that many people for customer service, given the weather that we have. And so over the years, the customer service teams and the engineering teams, they used to think about, so what can we do, in winter? And they said, well, why don't we modify RVs, and why don't we meet some of the special requests that customers have of us? And so it started with just modifying RVs. And where it has evolved to in the last 50 years is that there are two broad areas in which we work. The first area is that, we've taken the shell of our RVs, which are already very robust and among the best in the industry, and we have really industrialized and commercialized that shell and created a platform for people to build applications on. So what I mean when I say industrialized, commercialized is we've put flooring which can take heavier weights. So when you put heavy equipment on it, the flooring can take it. We've put bigger generators, we've put more power management, we've put different kinds of doors and windows, we've redesigned the interior. So now we have something called a commercial shell that in the industry, either Winnebago or other companies, they can take and they can build applications. And we'll talk about some of those applications. The second area that we have done a lot of work in is modifying RVs for people with mobility challenges. And that's just, it's been people in wheelchairs, it's been people with mobility difficulties, it's been people who are quadriplegics, paraplegics. But Winnebago has been one of the companies that has done this. The only other RV company of any significance that has done this is Newmar. And as you know, Newmar is now part of the Winnebago family. So it's fantastic to now have, two teams who have so much experience in doing this. So this business of specialty vehicles within Winnebago is a business-to-business division. So when you look at our applications, we do a lot in terms of taking businesses and services mobile. So typically, we've done a lot of work in mobile medical. So when you think about just taking this shell of an RV and putting either a mobile imaging machine, X-rays, mammography, CT scan, we've built mobile doctors and dentists' offices. We have mobile blood donation vehicles or blood mobiles. And recently, we've done a few interesting applications. We've built a mobile child advocacy center, and we've also done mobile surgical instrument sterilization. So it's a really fascinating set of applications that we've built. And we build vehicles on any chassis that the customer desires. So we've got gas, diesel, as well as all electric. And we have actually built a few vehicles on all electric. Those are really interesting, innovative applications. So specialty vehicles, was this department in Winnebago. And what we've done over the last couple of years is that we have really separated it out into a division that we want to grow much more and we want to focus on. And it's been my privilege to be working with the team and leading that division. And hopefully we're able to grow this division much more as we go ahead.
Kenny and I had the opportunity at the RVX last year to tour one of the accessibility enhanced RVs. And some of those features, like the bathroom, for instance, we thought would be great in a non-accessibility enhanced RVs. So it's obvious that you guys took a lot of time and feedback in developing that particular line of RVs.
Yes, that's right. These vehicles, we have always built these vehicles on a customized or bespoke basis that customers would come to us and we would build them the vehicles. But that process obviously takes more time. And we are trying to get to the point where you can buy an accessible RV, much like you buy a regular RV. And you're right. I mean, it wasn't just a question of taking a vehicle and putting a wheelchair lift, but we went through months and months of work where we said, look, we've got experts in our company who have spent 30 years working with hundreds and hundreds of customers building these vehicles. How can we distill all of those insights and experience and create more of a standard vehicle, which is just really targeted for someone in a wheelchair? And so what we've done is we've redesigned the interior completely. You mentioned the bathroom. We redesigned the bathroom completely with the ability to take a wheelchair in. We went around the entire RV looking at how we can bring controls lower down so that someone sitting in a wheelchair can access it. We put various places where we broadened corridors and access paths so that the wheelchair can go through the RV. We redesigned furniture so that someone in a wheelchair can sit there. So we really did a lot of work in terms of saying, how can we redesign this? And you're right that many of these features will be useful in regular RVs as well. And it's been really interesting to see the response from the market for this offering. And we believe that there's much more that we can do in this area.
Ashish, can you walk us through a little bit on the medical side, like a mobile medical unit, something that has like the mobile imaging or a doctor's office or the mobile blood donation? How does that get started? Does a hospital contact you guys and say, hey, this is a problem that we have. We were wondering, could you find a solution for us in one of your units? Or does it go the other way around? Did you guys come up with these ideas and then present them to the hospitals as a possible solution? How did that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's not always clear to people how that process works. So first of all, in today's world, as you can see, and in the COVID pandemic, we are definitely seeing this. Almost all customer journeys start off digitally. We have access to smartphones, we have access to computers, Wi-Fi connectivity is there in a lot of places. So typically people tend to start online. So we definitely have an online presence where we talk about these vehicles that we do. And in many cases, we reach out to customers. And now that Winnebago has been known in this industry for a number of years, customers reach out to us as well. And we do have partners. We work with a national network of companies called upfitters. And these are companies that are manufacturing experts who can take our shell and build out an application for different domains. And they have a lot of expertise and experience, say, in bookmobiles or mobile libraries or preschools and different areas. So when a customer comes into us, I think the first thing is to do a needs analysis to say, okay, how do you plan to use this vehicle? And do you have experience in using it before? How would you actually run the programs that you have? What that helps us to do is to understand the sizing of the vehicle, the subsystems which will be in there, access points of the vehicle, how they're going to use it. And when we do all of that needs analysis, we can then come out with a design which we present to the customer. And once that's approved, then we start manufacturing. Now, what we do in the background is that we have a set of platforms that we use, which are kind of like Lego building blocks. There are a few chassis that we use. There are different subsystems that we use. So we can actually combine those in a large number of combinations. So from the customer's point of view, while they can get what they need, for us, we don't need to each time start from scratch, but we have a large number of pre-engineered, pre-designed variations on these platforms, which help us. But of course, for us, we are working on projects where we've done a project before. So if you look at a mobile CT scan, we've done a mobile CT scan for early lung cancer screening with a company called Samsung Neurologica, who built the CT scanners. And this CT scanner is a 4,000 500-pound machine. So as you can imagine, we need to make sure that we are able to not just mount the vehicle on, mount the scanner on the RV platform, but the vehicle can run, the machine can operate, it's got the right kind of power, it's level on a surface, so you've got a pretty good leveling system. It's got, the operating conditions of temperature, humidity. So it's pretty complex from an engineering and design perspective. So the next time someone comes around and says, okay, I need a mobile CT scan, we're going to say, okay, we've done this before, so at least we are pretty aware of the questions to ask, and so we can come out with something that meets and exceeds their requirements.
Jamie Sorensen took Sabrina and I for a tour last year at the rally, and he brought us back to the specialty vehicles department and showed us that mobile lung screening RV. And Sabrina, being a pulmonologist, she was just floored with it. She wanted photos with it. You would have thought it was a celebrity. She wanted photos next to it. She wanted photos inside. She was just blown away by that. And when you stand inside of it, you forget that you're actually in an RV. It has, I don't know how else to explain it, but it felt very medical. It was broken into, I believe there was like a screening room first that somebody could enter with a desk, and you sit down and maybe you go through like some questions with them. And then I guess they can move into the room that the lung screening device was. That I'm very basic. I'm a very simple person. The way I could explain it would be is that it looked like a giant donut to me, and you put the person through this donut, but it was enormous. I totally imagine that this weighs every bit of 4,000 pounds.
Yes, that's right. And I think you described it very well, that, when people come in, you want the feeling to be a feeling of, oh yeah, that looks like a doctor's office. I've been there before. And so, there is some comfort in the familiarity. There is an intake room, and there is a room where then the patient can get changed. And this donut that you're talking about, that's exactly the thing. It's a donut with a table that goes through the middle of the donut. Now, what happens in many of the fixed hospitals, the brick and mortar facilities that we go to, is that the donut is actually moving on a set of rails. And what this model has done is that it keeps the donut stationary, and the table on which the patient is, that table actually moves up and down. And so what we've been able to do is we've taken one of the slide outs in our RV, and when the slide out is extended, it gives enough space for the table to move in and out. And going back to this thing about, the human-centered design and watching customers do something, we've spent a lot of time as observers in CT scan, rooms, of course, with, the permissions of the doctors and the patients, to just observe how they do things, how the process goes. We've had a lot of conversations with them, and that's what helps us to design these things in a way that, when a practicing doctor like Sabrina comes in, she's impressed with it. For us, that's the ultimate thrill at the end of a project, that when a practicing doctor says, wow, this is great, I need a photograph with this, that's worth all the effort that we've put in.
So I would imagine, since you guys already have that Winnebago already has this medical background with RVs, are you guys doing anything with what's going on today with the war on COVID-19? Are you guys creating RVs that can help maybe with screening or testing?
Yeah, I think there is work that we're doing in the short term, and then there is work that we want to do for the medium and long term. So in the short term, what happens is, right now, this is just a tremendous emergency situation that we have on our hands. And there is no time for people to sit down with us and do, design and say, sure, you can look at how we do this. It's just, what can you do for me today? And therefore, what we are doing is we're doing a couple of things. One is we're reaching out to our customers, and I just want to encourage our customers to reach out to us as well, to say that if any of our previously built vehicles are being modified or repurposed for various COVID-19 responses and applications, we will be very happy to work with them to do that, because we understand the construction of the vehicle, and if it means moving some furniture around or installing something different, installing some sort of a temporary barrier, I think we can do that very easily. So the first one is just repurposing existing vehicles. The second is, and this is something which given the urgency of the situation, there are many places where we can use standard RVs, just not RVs which have been customized for mobile medical. But as you guys know, being full timers in RVs, existing RVs are pretty sophisticated. I mean, they have a number of subsystems in the RV, like air conditioning and generators, and they have infotainment and a kitchen area and a bathroom. So these can be used, repurposed for some of these applications. So that's the second thing we are encouraging people to do. And we are calling, we are making hundreds, thousands of calls to people saying, look, you're very busy. We don't want to disturb you, but our hand is up. So if there's anything at all we can do to help, please reach out to us. So we're trying to be, as minimally obtrusive as possible, because these frontline people are just working 18, 20-hour days, and we don't want to get in the middle of that. But we really want to make sure that we are able to help them in all ways that we can. And of course, if there is a requirement that comes up to build a new vehicle, we are willing to do what it takes to make it as quick as possible. In the medium to long term, what I see is that this pandemic has forced us to rethink many of the assumptions that we have always held. And for all of us, this is the first time in our lives, and I pray this will be the last time that we will see something like this. But it's opened up a lot of things about, how do you respond to this? How do you take medical care to people who can't come to a hospital? There are people, in rural communities. There are senior citizens. There are people with special needs. There are many communities who can't come to hospitals. How do you take medical care to them? And even when you move broader than medical, we've been able to move many things online in terms of our work and in terms of things that we do. But even a little thing like, personal services like haircuts, like pet care. I mean, Winnebago specialty vehicles, a number of years back, we have actually done a vehicle for super cuts where it was a mobile hair salon. We have done many, many mobile applications. So I think it's going to make people think, both in the medical profession, the broader healthcare profession, and in the services industry, which will say, what do we need to do to take our services to? And when you think about that example of the early lung cancer screening, that's an example where, many people, the earlier you scan somebody for lung cancer, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to save them or treat them effectively. So the American Lung Association, they are a partner of ours, and they have a program called Saved by the Scan. And Saved by the Scan is an online lifestyle questionnaire, which is trying to surface whether you're at risk for lung cancer and therefore to encourage you to get a screening. And what happens with many of these patients who should get a screening is they are pretty far away from a facility that has a CT scan. And so either they have to drive, 50, 100 or more miles to that facility, or you could have a mobile vehicle that actually goes to them where they are. And in the community, it can do many, many scans in a day or two, and then it can drive off to the next community. So what we found in specialty vehicles that has been really unique is that in working with customers, they have always impressed us with how they have come up with applications that we would have never thought of, but that really meet their needs because they are the domain experts. They know their profession and their domain much better than we would or could ever know. We are the vehicle and the platform experts, and we've seen these hundreds of applications. So when you put those two groups together, that's the power that comes up with these innovative solutions that we are able to build for them.
I think about my background, Ashish, is in healthcare as well. And I think about some of the things that are going on with this COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the things that we're constantly hearing about and seeing on the news is the lack of efficiency in testing people for the virus. And I just think about a mobile application such as mobile laboratories that big hospital chains could invest in that really create efficiency in getting the testing where it needs to be at the time, because we know not everybody, like, it's going to move across the country. It's not peaking everywhere at the same time. And a mobile lab that contains all the instrumentation, all the safety equipment, all the supplies that can move between locations rather than disassembling and shipping labs around the country and then having to reset them up, is so much more efficient for companies. I'm surprised that more, well, I would be surprised, I guess, if more companies after this is over don't invest in more mobile applications just simply for the efficiencies that are created by having them.
Yes, that's a really, really good point. I think what is happening in the current situation is that people are just under so much pressure that, trying to design a vehicle with the mobile tests on it is something that just, within days or hours is not possible. But I'll give you an example of one of the vehicles that we built, which was exactly addressing many of the points that you raised. So for the University of California at Los Angeles, the UCLA medical system, we delivered to them an all-electric vehicle for surgical instrument sterilization. And this was a very unique application that we built. It was one of the first applications of its kind. What that does is that every hospital or big medical center has a facility inside of the hospital for surgical instrument sterilization. So there are a wide variety of surgical instruments that can be reused between procedures, but of course they have to be very carefully taken care of in terms of they have to be cleaned. Sometimes they need to be sharpened or polished, and then they need to be sterilized and then packed and then reused again for the next procedure. So these facilities are not always used at the full capacity. And then when you see smaller satellite medical facilities, smaller clinics, family medicine practices, other specialist clinics, they just don't have these sterilization facilities with them. So essentially what they do is they collect these instruments and send it to a central location for sterilization. Well, UCLA, which is one of the most innovative medical centers in the country, they came up with this idea working with us, which said, okay, why don't we take all of that equipment that is required to sterilize these surgical instruments and put it on one of the Winnebago specialty vehicles platforms. And in this case, we selected an all-electric chassis. And this vehicle drives between 3 campuses in the greater UCLA area, Ronald Reagan, Santa Monica, and the UCLA facility. And what it does is it parks outside the facility. The surgical instruments are brought out in a batch. It processes the entire batch. It does all the cleaning, polishing, grinding, buffing, and the sterilization in a piece of equipment that's called an autoclave, and then sterile packaging. It hands it back to the people and moves on. What are the benefits to the customer? So first of all, you save on the brick and mortar facilities, and the hospital system has estimated that they probably save, around $750,000 every year by not having these brick and mortar facilities. The second is that you can take the service, as you were saying in the testing equipment, you can just take the service in a very flexible way where you need to. So while there is an established schedule of how the vehicle moves between the big facilities, they can always go to other places as needed. Thirdly, since this particular implementation was an all-electric vehicle, when it's parked outside of the clinics, there's no idling of an internal combustion engine. So there's no exhaust, there's no idling. And we have put in enough battery systems and backup systems so that all of the equipment can be run off the batteries, and it doesn't really need to charge while it's doing that. So in terms of distance, it actually doesn't drive a huge number of miles every day, but it more goes from site to site. So you can see that this is an example where something which has always been inside of a brick and mortar hospital, you can really move on to a vehicle. And as long as you're working with a group of designers and engineers who understand how to put these safely and securely on vehicles and make it work, you can get some amazing results out of it.
Yeah, Sabrina's at a hospital right now. It's and it's two hospitals. They're sister hospitals owned by the same company. They're about an hour apart from each other. And I would imagine that this is a very common thing. When we were living in Philadelphia, she worked at a hospital system with three hospitals, all owned by the same company. And she would do her rotations. So I would imagine this is very common across the United States, that, like Sean was saying and that you were saying, that a hospital group could all share this mobile unit and move it from hospital to hospital within their own group of who needs it the most and at certain times. I think this was a great solution. This is fantastic.
Correct. And I think across the United States, what you're seeing is there are a few trends that you're seeing. One is that hospital groups are consolidating into bigger entities. There are, private equity companies and corporate groups that are now building up these consolidated healthcare practices. So there are definitely opportunities they have within the practices. The other flip side of this is that there are many rural hospitals that are closing down, and there are estimates that there are more than 100 hospitals that have closed down in the past few years. And what this does is it creates this phenomenon of a medical desert, which in 21st century America is a little surreal to think about it. But there are many people in America today who are more than 50 miles from a medical facility where they can do a CT scan or where they can do advanced diagnostics or things like that. And so for those people as well, these mobile clinics fill a much desired gap, which is of taking the services to these people. So there are these two aspects of, the cost efficiencies and capacity utilization, but there is also this aspect of taking the service more and outreach to communities and areas that are underserved from a medical coverage perspective.
Now let's shift a little bit to another part of this, and that is that Kenny and I have heard stories of RVs being used by hospital staff to protect families and loved ones from exposures. Can you tell us more about how that came to be?
Yes, in the United States, we are such a unique country, and it's always been great to see this, that whenever there is an emergency, people really get together and people pull together to help each other. And that's just, the fabric of who we are. And it's been amazing to see that. And so many of the frontline, healthcare workers, as you've been saying, this is a new disease that we're seeing. And people are just very worried that when they come home, are they going to expose their families and loved ones to the disease? So whether it's children, it's elderly parents and family members, it's someone who is dealing with a health issue because of which their immune system might be compromised and they might be more susceptible to these infections. And so we've really heard, heartrending stories about frontline doctors and nurses and public safety officials sleeping in their cars, they're sleeping in passages. One of the wonderful things that came out was that this group on Facebook, there was this lady, Emily Phillips in Texas, and her husband works in healthcare. And they were talking and they said, well, how would it be if we got an RV? Wouldn't that be great that we would be able to park it in the driveway and we would be able to stay in that RV? And so even though you'll be somewhere close to home, you at least have a place where you can, quarantine yourself when you're at home and you're not exposing the other members of the family. And so when Emily had a discussion with one of her friends, with Holly Haggard, they then set up a Facebook group called RVs for MDs to match RV owners with frontline teams. And this was just completely spontaneous that they set it up. I mean, there was nobody asking them to set it up. These guys completely did it on their own. And it's been just, wonderful to see that response. I mean, now I think they've built up to a full-time team of almost, 10 people. Emily, I think, runs a software business, and they've pulled together a group of people. Within 2 weeks, this group now has more than 24,600 members. And I just see these stories every day of these matches. And there are these wonderful stories of people driving 2 hours, to meet with the healthcare worker who's there. They're parking and setting up the RVs. In many, many cases, they've stocked the RVs with, food and linens. And in some cases, I even heard a couple of bottles of wine being provided. And so it's just, for me, wonderful to see these kinds of initiatives, which are just coming out of a desire for people to help other people. And, when you think about an RV, I mean, some of the bigger RVs that people are donating, I mean, this could be a couple of $100,000 in cost. And they're driving 2 hours from their homes, handing over the keys to strangers and leaving the RVs over there for them to use. Many of them have helped set up the electrical connections that you need for 30, 50 amps. They've worked with local, sewage companies who can help come and empty gray and black tanks. And I mean, there's just so much of a community spirit. It's heartening to see this, So for me, every day at some point, I go to that Facebook group just to, see what's happening. And you really get such a good feeling when you see that.
Yeah, I think that's really something that we've known as RVers for since we've started. Is one thing that we like about the RV community is that most RVers are so generous and helpful, and it really is a good community to be involved with because of that sense of community and generosity that goes along with RVing.
Yeah, it is a very generous community. Even that is overwhelming generous. That is amazing what people are doing. And I think the RV community is also generous with their time as well. Like Ashis was mentioning, they're going to help them set it up and show them how to operate things. And I've even heard if the people are very uncomfortable with the RVing and how things work, that they are coming back and helping them over and over again with dumping tanks and making sure that everything is running smoothly for them. It really is unbelievable. And it's a very real threat. Sabrina and I are actually experiencing this now. She's pulmonology. She's working at a hospital. When she comes home, I have Lysol and Clorox ready because we do live in our RV. And when she comes home, I wipe down everything that she touches and she goes in. We actually went to that Facebook to try to find a unit that maybe we could use as well, like place them here at the campground, 2 separate units. We'd still be able to see each other and, from a distance and be safe, because I also feel like there is a concern, not just for her to bring it home, but I make our Walmart runs as little as possible. It's been working out a little over a week at a time, but you never know. Maybe I catch it from somebody at Walmart. I give it to her and then she brings it to the hospital. So I think it can work in 2 different directions, which worries us.
Ashish, before we let you go, I wanted to briefly talk about electric vehicles, especially in the RV space. And Winnebago seems to be doing a lot of work in that area. Do you see that as still an area of growth for the specialty vehicles and consumer RVs as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, we've been seeing so much about electric vehicles in the press and everywhere. So Winnebago, when you go back into the history of the company, you will see that one of the things we have always been able to do is to look at new chassis and new technologies and new platforms and build out RVs on these platforms before other companies do. So as an example, Winnebago, I think, was the first company to build an RV on a Mercedes Sprinter platform. And it took a couple of years before anybody else in the world was able to do that. And I think that's a testament to our engineers, designers, and the innovation culture that we have. And I can give you a few more extreme examples of the innovation that we've done in the past. If you look online and search for the term flying Winnebago, you will actually see a helicopter-based Winnebago that we actually built a few units. We did take it to the Louisville trade show. There were a number of them built. And if you can think about the willingness to take risks from an engineering and a product perspective to say, hey, why don't we take a helicopter and build an RV on a helicopter platform? We built a bus that ran on hydrogen in the 1970s. Again, this was decades before any of this became popular. So this has been, Winnebago's culture. And again, it's really interesting to be part of that team. So we thought that electric is something that's coming and we need to push electric. And so we said, well, let's just get familiar with, the chassis and connectivity and building electric vehicles and how you redesign subsystems. So initially, while our focus is on the specialty vehicles and commercial applications, we think this has been an extremely useful experience for us because now we know much more about these vehicles. And so when they become more prevalent, when they start coming in, you'll see that Winnebago definitely leads. There isn't that much being done. And so we've decided that, we'll come out with a few of these applications. And as the technology keeps improving, we'll continue evolving our capabilities as well. So it's really exciting to be in the forefront of that.
I have actually seen the flying RV in a museum in Titusville, Florida. I was very impressed. It even had an awning on the side of the helicopter.
I'll have to look it up. I've never seen it. I don't know how I missed it. Ashish, before we let you go, is there anything that we might have missed or that you would like to add to the conversation?
Well, it's been really interesting talking to you guys. You have a really unique show, and it's been a pleasure to be on the show and to share some of our thoughts with your listeners. I think that the RV lifestyle and the RV industry, while there are many, many people who are part of the lifestyle and who enjoy the lifestyle, there are many more people who are not part of the lifestyle. And I think your podcast, does a really good job in terms of making people just comfortable with the lifestyle and answering questions around a real diverse set of areas. And all the best as you continue to build this out. From the Winnebago perspective, we are a company that has been around for 62 years. And it was really interesting to talk about all of the areas in specialty vehicles and mobile medical. The mobile medical clinics in America have been around for many, many years. There are around 2,000 mobile clinics in the US operating in a wide variety of areas. And for your listeners, if you're interested in looking at some of the details from the Harvard Medical School, there is a really nice website called Mobile Health Map, and you can just enter it into a search engine and it'll take you to the website. It gives you a real comprehensive database of mobile clinics, and you can see that these clinics work in preventative medicine, primary care, dental, diagnostics, outreach in a wide variety of areas. As we go forward, one of the things that Winnebago really, really wants to do is to continue to keep customers at the center of everything we do as a company. And whether those are RV customers or specialty vehicles customers, we want to really make sure that we are a customer-led and customer-obsessed company. And that will take us to the path of developing solutions that will delight our customers for many, many years to come. I really look forward to staying in touch with you guys, and all the very best for all of your listeners. Please stay safe and healthy. And I really hope that we get out of the situation we are in very soon and can get back to a normal way of leading our lives. Thank you very much again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ashish. I look forward to those days again, too.
Thanks to Ashish for coming on the show and talking to us about Winnebago, especially the focus they put on customers when they develop and improve products. They are also taking the lead in developing vehicles for industries such as medical and education. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. As always, we would like to thank our sponsors, Battleborn Batteries and RV SnapPad. These are two great products for all RVers. Thanks for listening, and we will be back in 2 weeks with a new episode.
This episode is brought to you by Battleborn Batteries, the best name in the RV and marine industry. These lithium batteries are designed and assembled in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. The best solution for your battery anxiety. So go check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
Whether your adventure is on the road, on the water, or off the grid, Battleborn Batteries keep you out there longer.